Hey everyone, welcome back to My Rising Rose with me, Jack Morrigan. Today I'm going to talk about the Dark Night of the Soul. Um, the Dark Night is more than a period of difficulty. Like I saw somebody recently talking on social media about how they went through the Dark Night of the Soul when they had their boyfriend cheated on them, and it's like, okay, maybe something like that could trigger the Dark Night of the Soul, but that's not what the Dark Night of the Soul is. It's not just feeling bad. It's something more significant than that, something more fundamental and existential. And what it feels like is like going into some of the most fundamentally difficult parts of what it is to be human. Often it's very personal in that it will be dredging up our own personal fears, our own things that make us feel despair, our own things that make us feel anger. But what sets the Dark Night of the Soul aside from more regular forms of emotional distress is that there's an existential component. And that existential component is like meeting the core of the ego's separation from life, which you could argue is the foundation upon which our other forms of emotional stress are actually built upon. That they're built upon the ego's kind of core dislocation from the source of all life. This feeling is more primordial or primal than anything else. It's not like something that it's very easy to kind of point to a cause or to, it's less like a fear of something specific or a sense of feeling bad because of something. It's more just the fundamental dimension of those feelings and the core thing that those things are built upon. It's common for people to be thrown into the dark night without having very much awareness of it. It's really underspoken about. Is that a phrase? It's not spoken about enough, in my opinion. And generally, there's a lot of misinformation about it. Like what I was saying before, people misconstrue it for just something went wrong in my life and I feel sad. That's not the Dark Night of the Soul. Also, sometimes people try and wear it like a badge. Like, oh, I'm going through the Dark Night of the Soul now because my partner left me. And it's like, okay, that's not the Dark Night of the Soul. And let's not wear that as a badge because that's quite disrespectful to people who are really going through this. But as I say, in my opinion, the core part of it is this kind of existential fear, which is hard to put into words. For me, that has kind of come through most as a feeling, almost as if the ground underneath me is just sort of being taken away. Like the ground energetically that I've been on for my whole life is either unraveling or it's suddenly taking away, or there's this kind of hole opening up beneath me, and a sense of kind of fear and dread connected to that, of almost like I feel like I could just fall out of my body into the void beneath. And then the kind of the way that evokes fear in specific parts of my body, that's more, in my opinion, more kind of dark nighty. For me, the Dark Night of the Soul began after basically a spontaneous Kundalini awakening. I mean, I didn't know what Kundalini was. I didn't know what the Dark Night was. I didn't kind of really have any expectations of where spiritual awakening could take me. And initially, following this Kundalini awakening, everything was very beautiful, albeit quite kind of overwhelming as well, overstimulating. But within a relatively short period of time, it became quite unpleasant, actually. And I went to stay at my mum's, and I thought I was going to be staying there for like, a few weeks, month, two at most. And I ended up staying there for 2.5 years, which I think was challenging for both of us. But, that kind of linked into the dark night of the soul, actually, because I had a lot of issues with my mother. I'm sure many of you do too. If you don't, you got lucky. So I had to face a lot of stuff, and I was basically dragged kicking and screaming into the unmet aspects of my psyche. Would be waking up with nightmares. I think it was every night for an entire year like that, often sweating. Like I'd wake up drenched in sweat. I'd have to put towels down at night on my bedding, like to absorb the sweat that I knew was going to happen during the night. It's a really unpleasant thing to go through. And I think for me, it was perhaps worse than it is for the average person, because for me, it dredged up a lot of childhood trauma, which I previously really had almost no direct conscious awareness of. So there was a lot that my psyche needed to process. And there was also this more kind of existential part of it, which was very difficult to put into words and very life limiting. It was a challenge to even like walk into a shop, because even just that shift in environment with other people's energies around was enough to kind of open up this void beneath me. And then it's like just getting some groceries turns into a battle of life and death, like it sounds melodramatic, but I mean, it's really intense when you're in the thick of that. And there's very little guidance out there around it. So I wanted to put this video out for all of you who are in it, and to better inform people, if you're not in this or if you've gone through it, so that we can have a conversation about it. But really, this video is for people who are in it now, because I know what that's like. And so this is for you. Like, I remember just the confusion and the dread. And I was very lucky in that the Kundalini awakening had opened my mind in such a way that I had established contact with certain deities just before going into it, which, probably was intentional. So they were supporting me through it. I had a lifeline, of communication, and they guided me through it. But not all of you will have that. So I feel like it's almost like a duty of mine to be what they were for me, for you, to remind you of a few important things while you're moving through this. One is that classic spiritual phrase, which is, "This too shall pass." It's, I think, often an overused phrase, and sometimes kind of people just sort of throw that out there without really thinking about it. But that phrase can be a lifeline for you when everything feels too overwhelming and too much. No, this will pass. Whatever it is, even if it's that most intense fear of dread, which I still have. I can feel it right now by talking about it. I'm evoking it. But it gets better over time. It gets easier. And you will reach a point where it doesn't dominate your life like it did. You might still notice it from time to time, but it won't be the same. It won't be as overwhelming as it is right now. And that can be like a little glimmer of light for you, just to feel, just to give you some peace for a moment. And so this too shall pass. That's something to remember. One of the most challenging parts of the dark night and all the energies that it's evoking is that it will, it's so intense that totally understandably your body and mind is going to go into panic mode and try to kind of manage the situation in such a way that it creates like some kind of sense of stability. You know, your mind may well be so overwhelmed by what's happening that it's sort of trying to grip hold of things and trying to put things in what it thinks is the right place in order to create some calm. But what you will likely find is your mind's understandable attempts to do this actually generate more stress than if for a moment you're able just to pause and say, okay, I'm just going to let this happen. I've been talking to somebody recently who's moving through this, and they were sharing today that was something that came up for them, and it made it easier. Just like, okay, hold on, can I just accept this? Can I accept this and just allow this to happen? And what you'll probably find is that makes it easier. Of course, when saying this, one of the things that I'm thinking about is that it would also be understandable if your mind heard me saying this and then tried to make that happen. You know, okay, I just now have to accept everything as it is. But that's not really what I'm talking about. You know, it's not a control thing. You don't have to make yourself accept everything as it is. You don't have to force anything to happen. You can just breathe and just see if you can notice what's happening, relaxing your body where you can, noticing if there's a part of your body that's tensed up, and then just consciously letting it relax for a second if that feels okay. And just letting that energy move through, because your energy field right now is being transformed. It's being changed. And you know, our body is a sort of physical manifestation of our level of consciousness. So in our regular egoic state of consciousness, our body and our energy field has a specific manifestation, which you could say is more dense and blocked. And that as you become more awake, it's opening. You're like a flower going from like a flower bud with the petals starting to open. And because you're unfamiliar with that, the feeling of the petals falling open feels like, whoa, hold on, I'm like losing too much. I'm becoming too vulnerable. You know, it feels intense. You know, just like a flower opening. You know, it's revealing its heart, its center to the outside world. So you're going through something similar. And the art to make it easier is just to learn how to flow with it, allowing it to happen. And that this is where it's fantastic to have some sort of deity or being or saint or whoever it may be, something, some sort of benevolent being outside of yourself, that can help you. Like, especially if it's not a physically embodied human who has their limitations. Sometimes it's fantastic to find some saint who died 100, 200,000 years ago, 2000, a lot of people call on Jesus or the Buddha at times like this, because that spiritual entity, the spirit of that person, can be there for you whenever you need it. So in moments of real despair, when it's not possible to reach out to someone else, there's something there that can help you. And that really got me through. I don't know how I would have done it otherwise. It really got me through. And with the spirits that were there for me, it was goddesses. It was Hela was there. Kali was a massive one. Tara also. They were there all the time. So if I was in real despair, they would come in and they'd help. And if I was like, when is this going to end? Like, what is happening? This is so overwhelming and confusing. They just kind of talked me through it. And one of the things that they told me, which I've shared before, they said, imagine an old office building from the 1970s. Imagine it with its outdated carpets, its really slow old computers. This is a really old, tired office, and it needs to be renovated and updated for the modern age. And now let's say that old office, that's you. That's the current state of your consciousness, and it needs to be upgraded. So we're going to come in and we're going to rip out all the carpets. We're going to take all the computers away, and we're going to rip the wallpaper off, and we're even going to get like industrial equipment in and rip up the floors and take all the windows out and everything. It's going to be really loud. It's going to be really noisy. It's going to be really disruptive. And the thing is, you can't leave the office. You're not allowed to leave the office and go home. You have to stay in the office while we're doing all of this work, and you have to carry on doing your work. That's kind of like what the Dark Night is. It's this very, very disruptive upgrade. But what they said at the time was like, don't worry, because even though it's disruptive now, it's going to upgrade you in such a way that you will be functioning at such a high level that you will be more fully yourself. You'll be so much happier, happier than you ever could have imagined if we hadn't done this. So it's a good thing, but understandably, it's very disruptive right now. So that was a real relief to me, actually. Like, I also appreciated it because they said it in a kind of comedy style. Like, they were putting visions into my mind while saying this, so I could see what they were doing as well. It was almost like watching a movie, and it was funny. Like, the way that they put it all together was funny, and it just kind of just helped me relax a bit. And it's like, okay, I feel like I can get through another day. And that, a lot of it is just that. It's just like, can I get through today? Just one day after another. And it does get better. It really, really does. Like, it takes time, but it does get better. And unfortunately, I can't say how long it will take. There's too many factors there. It's a very unique thing. For some people, it's relatively quick, a period of months, perhaps. Usually it's over a year. From what I've heard in talking to people, it can be considerably longer. But I don't want to say too much about that because I know when in that place, it's likely to think of the worst case scenario. I remember part of mine involved a lot of muscle pain and my bones cracking, and they still do. I kind of crack my head. After I record this, I'll do one of these. And sometimes that's still painful. But I remember when that first started, it was just like this little crack in my lower back. And I was like, oh, that's funny. That's a new thing. And my guides came in and they were like, yeah, you're going to feel that throughout your entire body, like everywhere. And I was like, that's weird. That doesn't seem like something that would happen. And then it did start spreading to different parts of my body. I was like, oh, wow, okay. And then it started getting quite uncomfortable and the novelty of it wore off. And it was just like, okay, I don't really want this anymore. How long is this going to take? And they were just silent. They didn't say anything. And that's not like them. They're not normally like that. So I took that as a bad sign. You know, it's like, oh, okay, how long are we talking? And I'm like, is it a year? And there was nothing. I'm like, longer than a year? This is like 10 years ago. So, and they didn't say anything. And eventually they were just said something like, it'll go on for as long as it needs to go on, something like that, you know, something very diplomatic. But they knew that it wasn't the time or the place to tell me how long it would be, because that could just be a really upsetting thing to hear. So out of compassion, they didn't tell me. And it still hasn't gone. It's better again. It's better and getting better all the time. And actually in the last week or so, everything is getting considerably better. Which is wonderful. And a long time ago, like that, one of the things they said to me was, you know, when I was probably literally crying in bed, just like in such despair. I'd probably, you know, maybe I'd been at my mum's for like a year, out of work, you know, in my late 20s, having formally studied medicine and failed my medical degree, and then thinking, okay, I'm a complete failure. You know, I've got no job. I'm in some kind of crazy internal situation which is completely dominating my life. I have no idea when it's going to end. I'm living at home with my mum. That feels really demoralizing. I'm just like in her spare room, sleeping in this single bed. She's stressing out, wanting me to leave, not understanding what's going on for me, and like wanting me to get on with my life, you know. And I'm just like, I cannot function like this. There is no way I could get a job in this current condition, and just being in total despair, like what the hell is going on? And I can't remember where I was going. Oh, they said there's going to be a time when you look back on this moment and you're grateful that it happened. It makes me emotional because that happened ages ago. It happened ages ago, like years ago, maybe like 5 years ago. I remember looking back on that moment and being grateful that it happened. And I still feel like that. I'm grateful that it happened. It's horrible. Like I don't want that to happen again, of course. But if it did, then that's what it is. You know, we can't control life. And as hard as it is sometimes, we have to accept that we aren't the ones who are in control. And that life has its own way, and that often our highest job is to just accept life as it is, even when it opposes all of the standards that we've set. And that can be really hard to do, can be really overwhelming. And I'm not saying this to like put pressure on you as if you have to do that. You don't. And it's totally understandable that you're not doing that when in a state of massive overwhelm. And you're not alone. Not only are you not alone, but there are some of the greatest spiritual luminaries who have ever lived have been through what you are going through right now. St. John of the Cross, he's the one who first coined the phrase dark night of the soul. Very well-known Catholic Spanish mystic from the 16th century. Jesus in the desert could arguably be him moving through the dark night of the soul. The Buddha, when under the Bodhi tree and attacked by the Maras, these demons that were trying to tempt him, could well have been him moving through the dark night of the soul. It is something that happens to some of the greatest people who have ever lived. And why do I say that? It's not to inflate your spiritual ego. It's to remind you that even great people go through periods of intense suffering. In fact, it's the humbling, overwhelming power of these experiences of intense suffering that actually make great people. So the fact that you're in this is a sign that life knows you can do it. Life believes in you. And I don't believe that people, you can look around you, there's not that many people in the general population that go through this. So it's only people who are being selected. It's like, okay, I think they've got what it takes. It's a bit like, imagine if you were a soldier in the army, and then like someone from the special forces sees you and they see the way that you conduct yourself, and they're like, I think that person's got what it takes to train for the special forces. And they recommend you for special forces training, and then you go through it. And if you've ever watched documentaries or interviews with people who have been through that and been successful, they will often say it was the most difficult thing they've ever done, that they would never ever want to do it again, but also that it made them and that they're grateful for it. It's so similar. The dark night of the soul is the special forces training for spiritually awakening people. And you're not the same afterwards. It does bring you to your knees, and it's meant to, because God knows we've got enough people just filled with spiritual ego who completely lack this sense of humility, because they haven't actually been through this stuff. And there's a lot of people out there who are talking the talk, but they haven't walked the walk. And we need more people who actually have. So I believe that's what the Dark Knight creates. And that's what we need, which is funny because it's making me think of the Dark Knight Rises with the Batman movie. Kind of trains you to become a spiritual Batman. Does that make it sound better? Maybe. It does get better. It's easier the more you accept it. It's totally understandable when you can't accept it. And sometimes you just have to do whatever you have to do to get through the day. Buy yourself that bar of chocolate, or spend longer in the bath. buy yourself some nice bath salts or a bath bomb from some nice place. Give yourself those little luxuries, because you might be telling yourself like that you're not doing enough, or you're doing something wrong, and that's not true. You're in a massively transformative process that is reworking you from the ground up, and really all it needs is time. So take care of yourself while it's happening, and you deserve that. You've earned it. That's it. Like, because you might feel like you haven't earned it because it knocks you out so much. You're not capable of doing the things that you used to be able to do. But you're earning it just by being in it. Like, it's a full-time job a lot of the time. And if you've got a job on top of it, if you've got kids, like, I take my hat off to you, because that's an extremely difficult thing to juggle. And it will resolve itself in time. You know, it's a process. Work with it as best you can. And don't beat yourself up when you can't. It's designed to batter you like that. It's like, it's almost like you're a sword or a piece of metal that will become a sword. You're being put in the furnace and you're being hit with a hammer. You know, you're being forged. Yeah. It'll be worth it in the end. I promise. It's a great thing. And it gives you a kind of superpower afterwards. You've gone through something that not that many people go through, and it builds character, helps you to be yourself, frees you from many things. But it is tough. So take your time, give yourself the rest that you need. Well done. It's something that I wish people had said to me more kind of during mine, like, well done. It's an accomplishment to have got as far as you have. And all you have to do is get through today. Just keep going. Okay. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.